Chapter 291. Changes in Heavy Iron City. It was because no one who possessed the Kangchon hegemony blood could whisk him away. Otherwise there wouldn't have been a dark age in the cultivation world 10,000 years ago. The old man has traveled across the world for nearly 1,000 years, but I didn't expect to end up as a stepping stone for a junior. Looking at the blood-colored blade Onings approaching him, the Li clan's supreme elder's face was miserable and his heart was filled with unwillingness. His fall would surely fuel Kangchon's fame, and once upon a time, who in this great Tang country would dare to offend Kangchon? Die. Kangchon's blood saber slashed out, the brilliant saber on once again traversing the void, killing the Li family's supreme elder. Stop! Right at this critical moment, a familiar voice came, and Kangchon's face instantly changed as he held up his blood saber and slashed hard towards the sky, reversing the saber aura that he had originally slashed out, causing the Li family's supreme elder to avoid this terrifying blow. However, that aftershock also lifted the Li family's supreme elder out. Who is it? Almost everyone sniffed and looked over. They were curious to know who else in this imperial capital could make Kangchon stop at this time. I'm afraid the great Tang Kingdom Lord couldn't either. Chona, let's go. This lesson is enough for their Li family. In the sight of the crowd, Wang Tixiong slowly walked, his eyes filled with relief as he said to Kangchon in the sky. When the crowd saw him, it suddenly dawned on them that in this imperial capital, I'm afraid that only Wang Tixiong was able to make Kangchon obey his orders. What's wrong with Brother Wang? High up in the sky, the Jin family head frowned. He was puzzled as to why Wang Tixiong was doing this. He didn't think that, if he spared the Li family this time, the Li family would be grateful to him. It was simply impossible. The Zhao family head and Sun family head on the side were also in deep thought. They didn't understand Wang Tixiong's motives for doing this. Only the great Tang country lord, hidden in the void, had a smile on his face as he nodded and said, Ginger is still old and hot. This grandfather of his is not bad, but it's a pity. Saying this, a trace of regret flashed in his eyes. Then he turned around and left. In the sky, Kangchon coldly swept a glance at the Li family's supreme elder and immediately landed down, coming beside Wang Tixiong. Not far away, Little Gold also ran over. Grandpa, you. Kangchon looked at his grandpa with a face full of puzzlement, not understanding why his grandpa wanted to stop himself. In his opinion, as long as he didn't kill Li Yuanba, it was still okay to kill the Li family's Taishong elder, and anyway, it didn't violate the Heavenly Dao sect rules. Little Jin was also full of puzzlement. Let's go back and talk about it. Our masters have just met. We haven't had a proper gathering yet. Wang Tixiong interrupted Kangchon's words and said with a smile. Then he waved his hand at the Zhao family head, Jin family head, and Sun family head in the sky, and left with Kangchon and Xiaojin. You guys take care of yourselves. Before leaving, Kangchon left this warning in front of the Li mansion's gate, looking coldly at the Li family head, Li Yuanba, and the Li family's supreme elder trio. Li Yuanba's face was filled with rage. He wanted to rush up and find Kangchon to fight for his life, but he was pulled back by the Li family's supreme elder to his death. Yuanba, calm down. We have to endure. The Li family head shouted at Li Yuanba, and then he and the Li family's eldest elder tackled him back together. As Kangchon and the others left, the surrounding crowd watching the battle dispersed. They wanted to spread the news throughout the entire imperial capital, and even the entire Great Tang Kingdom. The Overlord, who had been away for 10 years, had returned once again, forcefully defeating the out-of-body stage powerhouse and causing the Li family to nearly extinguish their clan. Undoubtedly, this news would cause the entire Great Tang Kingdom to boil, and there would be countless young talents flocking to the imperial capital, wanting to admire the Overlord's might. Heavy Iron King's royal mansion. Kangchon looked at his grandpa with a puzzled face, waiting for his grandpa's explanation. He didn't believe that his grandpa would let the Li family off the hook for no reason. Looking at the grandson in front of him, Wang Tixiong was filled with relief, then slowly said, "Killing the Li family's supreme elder will only make them jump over the wall. I'm afraid that Grandpa's life will be even more difficult in the future." "Then we can't let them off so easily," Kang Qian said with some reluctance. In front of Grandpa, he was somewhat like a child. "The Li family head sister is the consort of the State Lord. We owe the State Lord a lot of favors, although he didn't make a move to stop you." But Wang Tixiong didn't finish his sentence. His deep gaze looked at Kang Qian. He knew that Kang Qian should be able to understand. Sure enough, Kang Qian was stunned at his words, then smiled bitterly and said, "Still, Grandpa's considerations are thorough. Qiana understands. This time counts their Li family as lucky. If there is a next time, I will definitely let them exterminate their family. Want to exterminate the Li family, just first exterminate Li Yuanba and Li Chongjiao." Wang Tixiong heard a cold light flash in his eyes, then patted Kang Qian's shoulder, full of kindness, and smiled, "Well, you fought for a day. You should also rest. Tomorrow Grandpa will talk to you in detail." After saying that, Wang Tixiong left Kang Qian's house. Kang Qian watched Grandpa leave, and on the side, Xiaojin sat on the table and nibbled on a banana, eating with excitement. Swish, a familiar figure appeared in the house, and at the same time, the door of the house automatically closed. "Elder Dan." Kang Qian looked towards this familiar figure. It was none other than Emperor Dan, who had come out from the reverse heavenly cauldron. After all these years of cultivation, his Yuanying had become even more solid. "Kid, it's not unreasonable for your grandpa to consider. In the cultivation world, debts of favors are the hardest to pay back. And at critical moments, they can even become the demons that plague one's heart." Emperor Dan snatched the little gold banana and ate it with flavor, exasperating the little gold with open teeth and claws, glaring angrily at him. Kang Qian pondered in his heart as he sniffed. This time, if the State Lord really wanted to step in, he would definitely give the State Lord a face and spare the Li family. But the State Lord didn't step forward. Obviously, he didn't care about the Li family's death. After all, it was just a consort. It wasn't important to their great Tang Kingdom's royal family. The State Lord would not offend Kang Qian or waste one of Kang Qian's favors because of a concubine, so he did not step in to stop Kang Qian. Now that I think about it, the State Lord was really resourceful. However, his own grandfather was even better, returning this favor with a hard hand, making it a lot easier for Kang Qian. "I will return the rest of the favor when I have the chance," Kang Qian murmured, then sat down to recall the battle of the party. Today's battle with the outbreathing stage powerhouse had given him a lot of insights that he needed time to digest. If he hadn't taken the opportunity to make the Blood Blade unlock the second layer of seal this time, I'm afraid that he would not be a match for the Li family's supreme elder. After all, the difference in cultivation between the two sides was too much. Furthermore, this battle allowed Kang Qian to see the weakness of the Sublime Chop. To be precise, the Sublime Chop did not have a weakness. It was just that when he faced a stronger enemy again, the weakness was exposed. Every time he performed the Sublime Chop, Kang Qian would attack by suddenly appearing from behind his opponent, which would have been a favorable thing for the battle. However, the Li clan's supreme elder was so powerful that after he knew the principle of the Sublime Chop, he could immediately put up a good defense, making the move ineffective against him. Of course, if someone with similar strength to Kang Qian was unable to make a timely defense, even if he knew the principles of the Sublime Chop. However, once there was a large difference in cultivation between the two sides, the opponent could make a good defense in advance, thus freezing Kang Qian's Sublime Chop, just as the Li family's supreme elder had done. If only the Sublime Chop could just appear anywhere like the Heaven Escapement, Kang Qian suddenly thought. Today, he did not perform the Heaven Tackling Hand, because the power of the Heaven Tackling Hand was equal to his cultivation, and with his current cultivation, the power of the heaven-tackling hand that he could exert was limited, and could only threaten early stage of outbreeding, and was ineffective against late stage of outbreeding than the Li family's supreme elder. However, if the sublime chop possessed the ability to appear anywhere, anytime like the heaven-escaping hand, then the enemy would be unable to defend against it even if they knew the principle. Kang Chon fell into deep thought as he continued to evolve and extrapolate the sublime chop in his mind, beginning to perfect this move. Time passed slowly. Kang Chon had been perfecting the sublime chop in his house, apart from talking to Grandpa, for a while every day. Wang Tixiong was very happy about this and felt that Kang Chon was not proud even after such an achievement. His heart was very gratified. Therefore, he also stopped disturbing Kang Chon, allowing Kang Chon to cultivate at ease. As a matter of fact, during this period of time, the Heavy Iron King's royal mansion was filled with people, and Wang Tixiong couldn't take the time to accompany Kang Chon for a casual chat. After the news of Kang Chon's return and his defeat of the Li family's supreme elder had spread, the entire royal mansion had become a lot more lively, with guests visiting almost every day, none of whom were bigwigs in the imperial capital who wanted to come and climb into a relationship. For a time, the Heavy Iron King's royal mansion was filled with visitors. This is the hearts of the people. Looking at the guests who arrived every day and treated him respectfully, Wang Tixiong sighed. When he was first appointed as the Heavy Iron King, he was also in this kind of scenery. But after the Li family put him under house arrest, those so-called guests disappeared one by one, leaving only the Jin family's head, Master Wind Edge, and a few of his close friends to come to see him regularly, while the others didn't dare to take the risk of offending the Li family to come and visit him. And now that Kang Chon had returned and strongly defeated the Li family's supreme elder, these people had come uninvited again. This cheek was really comparable to the walls of the imperial capital. However, Wang Tixiong did not unwelcome them. He knew that, if he wanted to mix in the imperial capital, the necessary network of connections still had to be there. Furthermore, as the Heavy Iron King, if he didn't have any temperament at all, he was afraid that others would bury his grandson because of it. Heavy Iron King. Suddenly, a sharp voice came, and from outside the door of the king's residence, a brocade-robed eunuch walked in. Wang Tixiong immediately greeted him with a smile, and said in his mouth, "What wind has blown the eunuch here? Mr. Wang has missed the welcome." This eunuch was the eunuch who came to announce the decree when the state lord appointed him as the Heavy Iron King, and he was said to be the red man beside the state lord, and was highly valued by the state lord. "Elder Wang has disgraced the slave. How could I possibly let you greet the slave? The reason I came this time is that I was ordered by the state lord to invite Overlord to the imperial palace. I hope that you, Elder Wang, will approve it." The eunuch hurriedly greeted him. Where else would he dare to let Wang Tixiong greet him? Now everyone knew that the Heavy Iron King with Kang Chon as his grandson was an existence that no one in the Great Tang Kingdom dared to mess with. "Oh, an order from the state lord. I'll take you to see Trona." Seeing that it was an order from the state lord, Wang Tixiong didn't dare to be slow, and immediately led the eunuch to Kang Chon. In the west wing of the house, in the small courtyard where Kang Chon was, a figure flickered in the courtyard. This is, Wang Tixiong's face was full of shock. The eunuch on the side was also stunned. They saw Kang Chon in the courtyard, disappearing for a while, appearing for a while, and without any regularity. It seemed that wherever he wanted to go, he could instantly move there. Instantaneous movement. The eunuch's face was full of shock, as the red man beside the state lord. He naturally knew about instantaneous shifts, as the state lord often disappeared right in front of him. It seems to be a function attached to one of Chona's divine abilities, Wang Tixiong said. He had naturally heard Kang Chon say that he had been studying the sublime chop during this period of time. Now that he thought about it, Kang Chon should have completely perfected the sublime chop and it looked like there were no more breaks at all. "Worthy of being an overlord," the eunuch heartily exclaimed. "Grandpa, you're here." A figure suddenly appeared in front of Wang Tixiong, startling Wang Tixiong and the eunuch. And only when they saw that it was Kangchon did they breathe a sigh of relief, and at the same time secretly marveled at the power of the instantaneous transformation. "The State Lord wants to see me. What is it about?" On the way to the palace with that eunuch, Kangchon pondered in his heart. Speaking of which, he and this State Lord had only met once, and although the other party had some favors for him, other than that, the two sides did not have any intersecting points.